$75. That was the opening price for brotherly love in Golden Oak Estates, and right away I knew I was living in a bad play. I say opening price because there'd be administrative fees, postage, and a mid-shelf bottle of bourbon I had to nurse just so I wouldn't throw a brick through a window altogether. It cost me my so-called peace of mind. Funny, right? I thought so until I couldn't laugh. I stood on my front porch, the morning sun bouncing off the beige vinyl siding. Every house the same, holding a thick cream-colored sheet with the golden oak leaf embossed at the top like Satan's wedding invite. Violation: unauthorized guest parking. Section 14.3C. Time 7:14 to 8:02 p.m. Vehicle 2019 Toyota Camry Silver. Penalty $75. I looked at my driveway, empty, a pristine slab of pressure-washed concrete you could land a small plane on. And I'd been fined because my brother Dave's Camry had sat there for 48 minutes while we ate pizza and watched the game. I crossed the street and my eyes locked on the third house over. Curtains twitched and there she was, Brenda. Brenda wasn't merely the HOA president. She was bureaucratic overreach in human form, a haircut that screamed, "I need to speak to your manager," a floral blouse buttoned to the throat, a clipboard held like a broadsword. I marched to her door the way a man who pays $200 a month to keep peace in his neighborhood should march, righteous and loud. I knocked, not politely, a cop knock. The door opened instantly like she'd been expecting fallout. "Good morning, Mark," she chirped in that kindergarten teacher voice reserved for kids holding scissors. I held up the citation. "What's this?" She adjusted her glasses, leaning in like she'd printed that very sheet an hour ago. "Oh yes, that. It's a citation for the unauthorized vehicle in your driveway last night." "Unauthorized?" "That was my brother Dave," I said. "He even helped you with your groceries during the ice storm." She smiled with that practiced sweetness. "He's a very nice young man, but rules are rules." Section 14.3C clearly states guest vehicles may not remain in driveway areas longer than 30 minutes without a pre-approved digital guest pass from the Golden Oak portal. 30 minutes. My forehead started to throb. It takes 30 minutes for that portal to load. I almost said it out loud. "He was here for pizza," I told her. "Do I need paperwork for my brother to eat a slice in my kitchen?" She sighed, like I was the world's biggest problem. "It's about standards, Mark. If we let one person park unapproved cars, then everyone will work trucks, RVs, beaten-down clunkers. It affects property values. We maintain cohesive aesthetics." It was a silver Camry, I thought. It blended into the concrete. It was invisible. "The bylaws protect us all," she replied, smile tightening. "You signed them when you bought the house. Ignorance is no excuse." I said I wouldn't pay. "Then it doubles in 30 days, she chirped. "We'll place a lien. Have a sparkling day, Mark." She closed the door and left me humming with rage. I stared at her perfect flower beds, her stupid ceramic gnomes, and wanted to punt one into orbit, but I didn't because I'm a civilized man. Back at home, I logged into the portal 40 minutes and paid the $75. I thought it was over. Lesson learned. Live in a dictatorship, play the game. I was wrong. That was the appetizer. The main course arrived a week later on a Tuesday. Water was dripping. Not rain's gentle patter, but the frantic, rhythmic splash of a pipe trying to self-destruct inside my kitchen wall. Panic. I shut off the main valve and called the first plumber on Google, who didn't sound like he was currently in prison. Joe showed up 40 minutes later in a beaten white van that had definitely seen better days. He smelled like coffee, and PVC glue, fixed the leak in an hour, charged a fair price, and then pointed out the window. "Hey, buddy," Joe said while writing the invoice, pointing his pen at the street. "That lady out there, she with the FBI or something?" I froze. Brenda was standing at the end of my driveway, phone in hand, snapping photos of Joe's van. "Oh no," I whispered. Joe squinted. "Is she taking my plate?" I ran out. "Brenda, what are you doing?" She lowered her phone, same maddening composure. "Documenting an infraction. Commercial vehicles are prohibited from driveway parking unless actively loading or unloading." Joe yelled, "He's fixing a leak." "Is it an ambulance?" she asked. "A fire truck." "It's a plumber." "Brenda, water, wet, bad." She tapped away. Contractors must park in the overflow lot at the clubhouse and shuttle equipment to the residence bylaw 18.2a. The clubhouse was half a mile away. Joe, wiping his hands with a rag, said he wasn't carrying a 70-pound snake machine that far. I don't make the rules, Brenda said sweetly. I just enforce them. Your vehicle is an eyesore. It disrupts the visual harmony. She looked at me. You'll receive a fine via email. Tier 2, $150. I lost it. I'm not paying that, I snapped. She corrected me. It's compliance, she added casually. Also, your grass is a little long. You might want to measure it. 3 inches is the maximum. She walked away, heels clicking like doom. I paid Joe. I paid the fine. But something inside me snapped quietly, terrifyingly, the kind of snap that says, reason has left the building and all that's left is war. So I went to the monthly HOA meeting to appeal. I prepared a speech, printed photos of the leak, was ready to use logic. The meeting smelled of floor wax and stale cookies. About 20 people, mostly retirees, arguing over mulch shades. When it was my turn, Brenda asked my name and address, gave me 3 minutes. I stood up and spoke. Rules are fine, but penalizing emergency repairs is unethical, maybe illegal. Guest parking rules are isolating. We're treating this neighborhood like a museum, not a community. I begged for a waiver and a review of Section 14.3. Brenda held the spiral-bound rulebook like gospel. We are a premier community, she intoned. We maintain property values through strict adherence to visual uniformity. She read aloud, driveways are reserved for private passenger vehicles legally registered to the residents. If a car isn't registered to the house, it's a guest, a temporary imposition. Only vehicles registered to the address are permanent residents in the driveway. Her words repeated in my head like a stuck record. If the car isn't registered to the house guest, registered to the address resident, duh. I drove home in silence, pulled into my empty $200 a month fee driveway, opened the fridge, grabbed a beer and stared into the dark. Brenda wanted visual harmony, adherence to standards. She'd been so precise, the car must be a private passenger vehicle registered to the address. She didn't say it had to be nice. She didn't say it had to be new. She didn't say it had to be clean. Light bulb. I smiled a slow, dark grin, not a happy grin, more like finding the Death Star's thermal exhaust port. I opened Craigslist and typed running cheap ugly. When you're specifically after vehicular abominations, the internet does not disappoint. Civics missing hoods. Ford Tauruses that look like props from a failed heist. A minivan described as smells like wet dog runs good. On page 4, a blurry night photo, 1983 Chevy Caprice wagon. Barely legal. $500 firm. Don't ask about the smell. The seller's lot sat in a part of town the HOA would probably label "Here Be Dragons." Chain link fence, razor wire, a guy named Sully in oil-stained coveralls who chewed whatever you pray was tobacco. Sully loved the car. "You the guy about the wagon," he grunted, spitting a brown stream near my shoe. "I am," I said, trying to look like I belonged. He sized me up. Polo shirt, clean haircut. "You sure you ain't looking for the golf course?" "No," I said. "I'm looking for revenge." Sully laughed like a garbage disposal chewing rocks. He led me through crushed cars to the clearing. The Caprice, 3 different colors, peeling faux wood panels, bumper held on by bungee cords, and optimism, a headlight replaced with a duct-taped flashlight. "She's a beauty," Sully said, patting rust and sending a puff of dust into the air. "Does it run?" I asked. "Runs," he said. "Spites the road. V8 loud. Leaks oil, but she turns over. Transmission slips, but you kick the floorboard she catches. Plan register it to my address. Get plates insurance. Make it the most legally protected pile of garbage in Pennsylvania. Sully, $500, he'll throw in a battery." We shook hands, his palm like sandpaper wrapped in grease. He asked if I wanted it uglier. I told him no neon yet, save neon for escalation. He welded the bumper so it wouldn't fall off and kill a nun, left the crookedness to drive neighbors crazy. 2 days of DMV purgatory. Later I sat across from Dolores, who had been stamping since Carter. "Making model?" she asked. 1983, Chevrolet Caprice wagon. "Color," she said. "Multicolor. I have to put a primary color, sir." "Distress," I said. She sighed. typed yellow, printed the plate shiny and new, and handed it to me like a shield. "God help your neighbors," she muttered. "Thanks, Dolores." "I think God left the building," I said, and drove back to Sully's yard. The wagon was ready, windshield wiped, bobblehead hula girl glued to the dash, keychain, a rabbit's foot missing toes. I turned the key. Clunk. Pow. The V8 roared like a chainsaw in a library. The car shook. Blue smoke puffed from the tailpipe, and Sully gave me a thumbs up through the haze. I merged onto the highway. People stared. A woman in a Tesla looked genuinely scared. I cranked the radio, stuck on AM, crooning. The volume knob fell off in my hand. Perfect. I pulled into Golden Oak Estates at 6:15 p.m. prime time. The sun set gold. Lawns gleamed. The V8 echoed. I parked dead center in my driveway, nose almost to the garage rear, sticking out like a defiant middle finger. I killed the engine. It backfired like a gun pow, and then silence. I patted the primer gray fender. "Welcome home, darling," I said. Curtains ripped open across the street. Brenda stood in the window phone to her earmouth, a perfect O. I waved. 12 minutes later, an officer arrived. Officer Miller, a good guy 10 years from retirement. He pulled up behind the monstrosity, lights on, but quiet. Brenda pointed like a woman possessed. "Abandoned vehicle. Safety hazard," she shrieked. "It's my car," I said calmly, handing Miller the registration and insurance. Miller checked the plate. The VIN. "It's registered to Mr. Reynolds at 1402 Oak Street." Brenda went silent. "What?" she whispered. "It's my car," I said. "I bought it today. I'm thinking of vintage restoration." "That is not a car," she sputtered. "That is garbage on wheels." "It's a classic," I said. 1983 Caprice." I held up the rulebook phrase. "Only vehicles registered to the address are permitted permanent residence in the driveway." It was registered. Miller tried not to laugh. "Ma'am," he said to Brenda, "it's legally registered on private property. There's no crime. Civil matter for the HOA." Brenda spluttered. "Then go hold a meeting," Miller said. "Good night, Mr. Reynolds. Drive safe." Brenda stomped off, purple-faced. "This isn't over, Mark," she hissed. "I will find you for every oil drip." I patted the hood. "I look forward to it, Brenda. By the way, I'm calling her Karen." She slammed her door so hard I felt it in my feet. That night I slept like a man who'd chugged adrenaline and chased it with an espresso. Dawn the wagon looked worse in daylight, hideous and perfect. My mailbox stuffed with 7 cream-colored golden oak envelopes. I brewed paint-stripping coffee and read Violation 1 vehicle in disrepair. Visible rust prohibited. Violation 2 fluid leaks. Oil stains hazardous. Violation 3 unsightly appearance. Violation 4 missing hubcap. Violation 5 bumper alignment. Total fines $900. Brenda wasn't playing checkers. She was playing 4-dimensional chess with the rulebook memorized. I called Sully. "I need extensive, highly visible, slow maintenance," I said. "Change a spark plug, make it take 3 days. Sully laughed and came over with jack stands and a hydraulic lift. Within 20 minutes, the car sat 2 feet off the ground, wheels stacked in a pyramid at the end of the driveway. He opened a cooler, pulled out a ham sandwich, sat in a folding chair next to exposed rotors, and started eating. I knew Brenda would appear. She did 4 minutes later, materializing like a vengeful spirit. "What's going on?" she shrieked. "Doing maintenance," I said. Sully, mouthful, called out fake-sounding mechanical jargon to gas. Her caliper bushings seized on the transverse axis. Takes a while to torque them down. Brenda declared non-existent rules. I pulled out the bylaws. Active maintenance gets a temporary exemption. We were actively maintaining and eating. Brenda called in fines, $500 a day. I challenged appeal, everyone with receipts. It was officially a restoration project, now preserving automotive history. She said she'd tow it. She dialed. An hour later, Predator towing Tony, neck wider than my head, rolled up. Brenda hopped forward, waving her clipboard. Tony looked at the car on jacks, looked at my SUV blocking it, looked at Sully napping in a lawn chair. "Who called?" he rumbled. "Brenda." "It's a hazard, Tony. No court order, I'm not touching it." He spat, turned and left. Brenda shrieked that he was a coward. Tony leaned into her until she took a step back. He told her not to call unless something was on fire. She ran home. Sully woke up. "Did I miss anything?" "Just the declaration of war," I said. "Put the wheels back on. We have work to do." Sully had neon paint and a bucket of stolen highway orange. We planned an escalation. Floodlights. A bloodshot eagle ripping floodlights. A bloodshot eagle ripping through metal. Realistic flames licking the sides and on the tailgate in Gothic script, Freedom Chariot. It was tacky, aggressive, visually overwhelming, glorious. I called it the Liberty Wagon. Brenda came at dawn, hair less perfect, and said, "You painted it." "Yes," I said. "It's art." She tried a new rule effective today, but my receipt proved the work predates the rule grandfathered. She pulled new tickets for noise commercial promotion and noxious odors, slapped 3 on the windshield, $300 daily. My smile faded. She'd bleed me dry with vague, subjective rules. Time to go on offense. She'd called a community vote to ratify new vehicle standards. I called neighbor Steve's silent, exact mode lawns who'd been fined for a trash can, and he'd had enough. Monday night, the community center filled not just with retirees, but with families, minivans, pickups. 50 people. I slapped my dossier on the table, photos of Brenda's illegal gnomes, hedges too tall. Bob's boat in his side yard, Christmas lights up in February. I pointed at each violation tracked. The room murmured, then roared. I moved a vote of no confidence. Hands shot up all over the room. Brenda slumped. "Take it," she whispered. She left. We elected a new board. Steve became president. We struck the maintenance clause, loosened guest parking. I kept the car a month, drove it to the store, let kids take pictures with the eagle. A lanky kid in a metal tee offered $400. "You keep the paint and park it in the driveway," I said. He nodded. "Deal." He drove off the Freedom Chariot, rumbling blue smoke like a cape. I walked back up my driveway to an empty, clean space. Brenda's curtains stayed shut. I opened a beer, sat in my chair, looked at the less perfect, more human street, the sound of life, not a showroom. It tasted like victory and maybe a little 10W30 oil. Justice, karma. Maybe. But what do you think? Did I do the right thing, exploiting a loophole and turning the bylaws against a petty tyrant? Or did I go too far and make revenge a hobby? Have you ever been on the receiving end of a small power tyrant like Brenda? Tell me, right or wrong. What did you do?